taken out of context, shows the Footscray Football Club at the Derektown Toy Museum. Now this museum is in storage and not open to the general public for a number of reasons, most of them legal. Yeah. That day at Kmart, when I was in a hurry and the car park was full, when I parked my car, I didn't know it was the Prime Minister's car underneath. Gee, it gets touchy. Anyway, like all museums, this is just trying to show little pieces of history. For example, this mould here is from the printing press that put out the 1953 Footscray membership tickets. So if you want to see the 1953 Footscray team in action, I can sell you the tickets. And if you're the right size, I can even arrange a trip in the museum's TARDIS to get you there. Bookings essential, terms and conditions apply. At present, there are 20 sections in this museum on Australian rules football, but first and foremost to me will always be the Footscray Football Club. Now if you bought shoes in Buckley Street Footscray in the 50s or 60s, you might have got a copy of this promo record. Sons of the Scray, red, white and blue. We'll come out snarling, Bulldog through and through. When the bloke wrote that song, it was my snarl he was looking at, and that makes me Bulldog #1. If you're interested in the history of the Footscray Football Club, a good starting point is your books, newspaper clippings, movies of the day, and even talking to people around the club. But my personal favourite is the film taken of the 1954 Grand Final with running commentary provided by Ted Wheaton, who was also playing in the game. Now I know what you're thinking. Running commentary provided by someone who's actually playing in the game? No man can do that. It's Ted Wheaton I'm talking about. He could. Ask any umpire. Collecting football figures can be fun, and some of them can actually turn out to be quite valuable. For example, there's this lead figure here from the 1950s. This was sold in Australia as a Footscray footballer, and it does bear some resemblance to Peter Box, our champion centreman of the time. The reason that it's valuable is because the exact same figure was sold in England as a soccer player. But don't worry, we let them think that soccer is a form of football. There's less high marks, but there's more high dives. But one other interesting set are these Weet-Bix footballers from the early 60s. Now they're valuable because in America collecting cereal toys is quite a big thing. This is an extremely difficult set to collect, and in point of fact, I've only got 12 out of the possible 18. Now, I always wanted to marry a woman who was a serial toy collector. So, if you're 20 years old and gorgeous, send me photos of the 6 footballers that I'm missing, and we'll make mad, passionate love on the floor. Ah! Oh! That was Chris Hemsworth. He can't stand competition. Now, collecting soft dolls is always fun, but because they're always so popular, they're easy to pick up and don't quite have much in collector value really, with one exception, this chap here, a set done in the 1970s. But this, when it was put out, it was meant to be in the image of Jeff Jennings, our champion rover at the time. but due to a glitch in the manufacturing process, he came out looking more like Len Thompson. Now that's fine if you happen to be a Collingwood supporter, but when Len transferred to South Melbourne, all the Collingwood supporters got out their pins, they stuck them into this doll and started chanting voodoo curses. So this doll actually explains the arthritis that Len suffered late in his life. So there you have it. A Footscray player got the money and a Collingwood player got the pain. There is a God in heaven after all. Money boxes and tins. Money boxes, Footscray Football Club, empty. Collecting football jumpers is just a good way of remembering eras gone by. And like here's a sample here. This is the armband that they gave us to wear for crowd control at the Western Oval in the 1960s. An armband for crowd control. Look, what we really needed when Richmond came to play was something that was known to the German High Command as Big Bertha, especially on the day that I nicked Tommy Hafey's t-shirt. But anyway, the jumpers. Now this jumper here, that is the jumper that I was wearing on the day that Al McPherson sat on my lap at the MCG. Memories. This jumper is the jumper I was wearing on the day that Tony Liberatore threw Paul Kelly, the Sydney Swans midfielder, over the fence onto my lap. Personally, I preferred Al McPherson. And I hope that Tony's son Tom keeps that in mind if ever he has something that he wants to throw over the fence. Now this jumper here, this is the jumper that I was wearing on the day the umpires voted me the fastest man on the MCG. That was the day that I outran 38 cops, a personal best. Collecting cars is more of a fun thing because cars have little collector's value, except maybe for this set of Trams that was put out in the late 1970s. Unfortunately, I never got to collect the whole set of Trams because at the time I was the poorest man in Melbourne. Not everyone backed Malcolm Blight to win that Brownlow medal, you know. Malcolm, you owe me. Football jigsaw puzzles. Look, they tried to put out a few in the 1990s when Chris Grant was in his prime, but collecting football jigsaw puzzles will never be of great interest. Nobody wants to see their team go to pieces. Okay, here we have a selection of football cards, different advertising and whatever, all shapes and sizes going back roughly 100 years worth. I haven't put much trouble in displaying these because really the only one that I ever get asked about is the 1963 Ted Wheaton Scanlons. Now, over the years, I've had many fabulous offers to sell this card. Really, even if you threw in A Night with Rachel McAdam, I wouldn't think about selling my Ted Wheaton card. Well, maybe if you threw in A Night with Rachel McAdam, I might think about it. Collecting footy badges is one of the best things you can grab hold of. There are, of course, machines you can buy that make up your own badges, but the cops confiscated mine after I made up that health inspector badge that got me into the ladies' shower room at the YWCA. So most of the badges that you see here are actually genuine, and some do go back to the 60s. Anyway. Okay. Collecting football flags is a rather specialist field. So when this particular flag turned up above the American embassy on the 4th of July, naturally I was the #1 suspect. Good thing they didn't ask me about the pair of knickers that turned up on Halloween. Your secret is safe with me, Vicky. Rah, rah, rah! Right, you on? Oh, goodness. There we go. Try again. Who brought him? Right. Have one. Right. Oh, come on. This is the longest one of all. Gee. Jeepers. Oh, let's ruin that basket. Well, collecting football. Well, football is the name of the game, but collecting footballs can be a deflating experience. They need to be pumped up regularly. So unless you've married a woman who is so full of hot air that she could knock a buzzard off a dunny truck from 100 yards away, don't bother. Oh, what a mess. Now, collecting these is a bit of a mug's game. There's not much value in any of them. Same, it's mostly true of glasses, with the exception of what are known as trade glasses. For example, Eat a Peanut Butter and Greg's Honey put out some wonderful glasses in the late 50s. There are these from the early 60s. Despite extensive research, scientific research, namely, I asked my mother, I still haven't found out who put these glasses out, but anyway. But some beer cans can be quite valuable, and at football clubs there is always a resident expert who can explain to you the value of a can of beer. Now at the Footscray Football Club, the resident expert is of course Doug Hawkins, the legend. Captain coach of the AFL's drinking team of the century, with the Collingwood Football Club as his vice captain and WC Fields as his runner. Doug would have been inducted into the Hall of Fame, but he stole the keys to the fridge. Now we have here some records of theme songs of the Footscray Football Club. Now this was taken from Sons of the Sea, an old sea shanty. Now, in the days of these old sailing ships, sea shanties were used when the crew members had to perform routine tasks in unison, and it kept them together. I mean, in ancient days in the galleys, the ships were rowed by slaves who rowed their oars in time to a drummer. That is, until Ringo Starr came along and sank his own fleet, and they were all singing "She Loves You, Yeah, Yeah, Yeah" on the way down to the bottom. Gradually, they brought in these sea shanties. Now, the sea shanties take several versions, but this version used by the club was the naval version, and it goes, "Sons of the sea, bobbing up and down like this, sailing the ocean, bobbing up and down like this. They may build their boats, my boys, while we're bobbing up and down like this, but you can't beat the boys of the Bulldog breed when we're bobbing up and down like this. Now the term bobbing up and down like this actually refers to the art of loading and firing a cannon on the roll of the ocean wave in the midst of venomous hostility. Now, if you cannot imagine the horrors of working with antiquated machinery in the midst of venomous hostility, try thinking about the plumbing at the Western Oval in the 1950s and 1960s. Some of us survived, bobbing up and down like this. So whenever those drain pipes broke down, that theme song was our home ground advantage. Over the years, especially when I was a kid, I was asked on many occasions, why don't you support one of the more traditionally successful clubs? And on one occasion, I was even asked if I wanted to watch a match from the middle of the Collingwood members stand at the old Victoria Park. Well, not us, no questions. God's never told a lie. So watch the war, my darling, while the gentlemen go by. We love ya, Teddy. The logos used most commonly in this video were VFL and AFL, Victorian Football League, Australian Football League. The Footscray Football Club is located at the Wheaton Oval in West Footscray. Suggestions and memorabilia for the museum can be sent to Derektown, Post Office Box 1025, Glen Waverley, Victoria, Australia 3150. Now we have elsewheres to be.
Be there or be square.
Yeah.